Halo theme song is way more intricate than you probably remember. That vocal intro, talk about an icon. It may seem like this is just some epic vocal intro to a space-themed video game. And while it definitely is that, there is so much more that went into the development of this theme, including some things that make a lot of sense, and then a couple other things that might surprise you. In July of 1999, Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore wrote the Halo theme song in about 3 days. And there were some important things that they wanted it to cover. It had to match the game's ancient and epic and mysterious atmosphere. And two of those words I think actually became really, really important. Ancient and mysterious. And that's kind of exactly what that opening intro sounds like. Let's check it out. That's it. There's 4 sections. There's 4 distinct phrases, and they go like this. That's phrase number 1, and then phrase number 2. Phrase number 3. And phrase number 4. Just like that. Now these phrases are really interesting in how they communicate with one another. Let's just take a look at the melodic composition of each one of them. Harmonically, it's pretty simple. The whole thing kind of sits over E minor. And although we never actually specifically outline the chord itself, we utilize not the E natural minor scale, we actually utilize the E Dorian scale, which goes like this. The typical natural minor scale would sound like this. That C we trade for a C sharp, which makes it Dorian. Now let's look at the melodic structure of each of these phrases. The first phrase goes like this. That phrase pretty much feels complete. We can say, okay, we start here on our root, we move around, we ask a question, and then we end the phrase, right? We're sort of like introducing this like, here's the first point, but that point is completed, right? Then we bring in the second phrase. Now, this one actually is very, very similar, its structure. However, there's a distinct difference. It starts and ends on the 5. Naturally, that asks more of a question. It leaves it a little bit more suspended, a little bit more unfinished. And so the 2 phrases work really well together. We set an establishing, almost like an opening argument, right? We say, hey, here's this idea. And then our second phrase goes, but there's more details that we need to be aware of, even though I haven't told you the entirety of what they are yet. And then phrase number 3 comes in and really shakes things up by going. Now, our first phrase started and ended on the root. That's a pretty complete sentence. Our second phrase started and ended on the 5th, which still is a complete sentence, but it kind of asks more of a question. It leaves something to be resolved. It leaves out details that we still don't have. And in the third phrase, we continue to add context, but now we really bring it to the next level of, hey, there's even more unknowns in this. We start on the 5th, an octave below. We end that phrase on the 2nd degree of the scale. That is really not resolved. This whole line literally sounds like a question. I mean, think about how questions are usually phrased. The melodic structure of a question is different than a statement. Notice how I just said statement. I went down. But if I asked a question, that might sound like this. The whole thing kind of goes up, and look at the direction of this phrase. Yes, the last note goes down, but the whole direction of the phrase is very much questioning, right? what's gonna happen next. And then finally, we bring the whole thing home. There's another question, but we allow it to resolve this time, and the whole thing circles back to where it started, on the root. Melodically speaking, this is a brilliantly constructed 4-phrase melody. It introduces a statement, it gives us an indication that there's going to be more information that we're not quite sure of yet, it asks an even deeper question, and then it kind of still floats around the question, but then gives us the answer and resolves it at the very end. And the inspiration for this structure comes from something that might surprise you.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
There is our 4 phrases that inspired the structure of the melody for the Halo theme. Yesterday by the Beatles was one of Martin O'Donnell's inspirations for the melody of the Halo theme. And you can see how the structure of Yesterday's is actually quite similar. The first phrase is very simple.
Yesterday.
That's our opening argument. In the same way that the opening argument of our Halo theme is very definitive. It's like, okay, yep, there's the root. Nothing more to it. But then,
all my troubles seem so far away.
Oh, okay, interesting. It's like the next evolution of that idea, right? Where it's less resolved. It's now asking the question. It's saying, yes, we have this statement, but, and that's where we get our second phrase. Moving on to the third.
Now it looks as though they're here to stay.
Okay, so that one feels a little more resolved, but we're still not fully home in a sense, because it still feels a lot like it's getting closer to the answer, but not quite there. Our last notes are 4, 3, 3 in relation to our 1 chord. And then finally,
oh, I believe in yesterday.
Now, this one is a little bit different in that the melody, I don't think as clearly does the same thing as the Halo melody, where it says, here's an opening statement, here's questionable information, here's a really serious question, and then, okay, got it, we tie it back to the beginning. In Yesterday's, we have phrases that could be seen as a little bit more resolved. That's our 4th phrase. Now, the thing that I feel makes that really tying a bow on it and finishing the sequence is the harmony, because we go like this. Tell me that doesn't sound like it's complete, right? Because we literally have 6, 2, 4, 1. That is a very completing sound. Whereas, of course, the Halo theme is really just sitting in this very vague E minor sound. It doesn't use harmony to do the same thing, it uses the melody. But it does it in the exact same way. It has an opening statement, it asks the question, it gives more information about that question, and then it resolves. It gives us the answer. Now, you may rightfully look at these 2 songs and go, well, they sound completely nothing alike. And you'd be absolutely correct. And there is another influence that went into the creation of this theme, and it is this. Tell me that doesn't sound identical. What you are listening to, some of you may recognize as Gregorian Chant. And this was another one of the major influences that went into the creation of the Halo theme. This is a type of music that originated in the Roman Catholic Church all the way back in the 9th and 10th centuries. And we call it Gregorian Chant because its invention is commonly attributed to Pope Gregory I, although that is not entirely clear. But they were typically sacred songs sang unaccompanied by choirs of men and boys. And thus we get the sound. There's a lot of similar things going on here, right? Obviously the sound is almost identical. It's a choir of men singing a unison line. There's no harmonies, right? They're not singing multiple notes together. It's all just, right? It's all just one note. And there also seems to be really no time, right? There's no 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just phrases, phrases, phrases. And talk about ancient and mysterious sounding. Every time I hear music from the Middle Ages or the Renaissance period, there's this feeling of just, whoa. this is what people would have heard like 1,000 years ago. Music is fascinating because it's one of the only living examples of an exact replica of the experiences of people over 1,000 years ago. Because we think about what are the things that exist that kind of give us the depictions of those time periods, and it's like paintings, yes, but paintings are still a moment frozen in time. Music, if it's performed in the same way, of course it's hard to verify that I suppose, but for the most part, music sounds exactly the same now as it did to them. It's like the same thing as when we get old footage from, you know, World War I or something, colorized, and with audio added to it, it gives us this whole immersion. It's like that, but times 100. And what a great way to introduce that mysteriousness and that ancient feel into a game like Halo. So essentially, we've combined the performance style and sound of Gregorian Chant from 1,000 years ago with the song structure and melodic inspiration of the Beatles. And that's how we get one of the most iconic soundtracks to a video game of all time. Don't forget to check out the free instant piano guide. It's my brand new mini course, and while it won't teach you the Halo theme specifically, there's actually some really cool backing tracks that are kind of similar in a way. The stuff you learn in the modules, which is super easy, even if you've never played piano, you can learn it literally in minutes. And then it goes along with these backing tracks that I built. It's super cool. You just gotta check it out because it sounds like kind of similar to a video game theme song. It's totally free. Go check it out at the link in the description. And thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate it. We will see you in the next one.